Um, I think there's often a misconception that prosecutors just assume the guilt of every case that comes into our office, and that when police make an arrest, that we are always going to prosecute that person for the charge that they were arrested for. And that's not quite accurate. Anybody that watches Law and Order, they will tell you, the people are represented by two separate groups. The police, whose job it is to keep the peace and investigate crime and prevent crime, and then prosecutors and district attorneys, who are responsible for prosecuting those cases in court and seeking justice. And people don't often realize that as prosecutors, our duty under the law is not to obtain convictions. By law, our duty is to seek justice. And so, in cases where the evidence is insufficient, where we do not feel that we can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, or in cases where we do not believe that the person who was arrested did in fact commit the crime, our ethical obligation is very clear, and that is to not pursue the case and to dismiss it. And so that is what has occurred here in the case involving Mr. Miguel Romero. And so, as you know, Mr. Romero was a 17-year-old student at Horizon High School. And in the evening of February 7th, 2024, he was walking and crossing the street on Darrington Boulevard. And as he was crossing Darrington Boulevard from west to east in a crosswalk, he was struck and killed by a dark maroon large truck. And the truck here, you'll see it shortly. There's a body shop here that has a surveillance camera pointing in this direction, pointing northbound. And there's also a camera angle pointing this way, pointing west, that was able to capture the truck. The actual collision itself here in the crosswalk on Darrington was not captured on video. And so this on the right is the camera angle pointing towards north. We will see the truck emerge out of this parking spot and travel this way. And then this will be Darrington heading south. As I mentioned, the collision occurs off screen. This is the crosswalk here. And then the vehicle drives westbound on Darrington. Mr. Solis was identified as a suspect because a bystander, a witness to the collision, stopped and was rendering aid to Mr. Romero, but then got back in her car to head this direction. Approximately a mile down the road, she observed a red truck, and she took a picture of that truck and reported that truck as the offender. Approximately an hour later, officers from the Horizon Police Department were at Mr. Solis's home when he arrived, and they detained him and ultimately arrested him. The vehicle that you see here depicted was the red truck that Mr. Solis was driving, that the eyewitness identified as the vehicle. However, if you'll note, there does seem to be a discrepancy in the color of the vehicles. Mr. Solis's truck tends to be a brighter red, than the vehicle depicted, the suspect vehicle. You'll also note there is a white racing stripe, running stripe along the side of the suspect vehicle that is not on Mr. Solis's, and it appears on both sides of the vehicle. Additionally, on the suspect vehicle, Mr. Solis's vehicle, there is a decal above the rear tire that does not appear to be on the suspect vehicle. Additionally, if you observe the suspect vehicle, there appears to be bars that enclose the front grille. Mr. Solis's truck has that, as well as two very prominent metal bars that are not on the suspect vehicle. As we know that based on the eyewitness identifications or descriptions of the collision, Mr. Romero was struck and dragged for a period of several feet before the truck continued driving over him. There was no damage, apparent damage to Mr. Solis's red truck. Additionally, investigators swabbed the bottom portion of Mr. Solis's vehicle to identify any blood or bodily fluids that would have been left by Mr. Romero. And ultimately, swabs of the entire portion of the undercarriage of Mr. Solis's vehicle was negative. Mr. Solis, when he was detained, had a freshly opened alcoholic beverage in his car when he arrived at his home and was detained by officers of the Horizon Police Department, which, as you can imagine, was very suspicious. However, the can itself was full. It seemed that it had just been opened. And then when officers did obtain a search warrant and obtained a sample of Mr. Solis's blood, and that was analyzed, he had a blood alcohol content of 0. There was no alcohol that was detected in his blood. Additionally, one of the other eyewitnesses that was at the scene stated that the driver of the suspect vehicle appeared to be a young Hispanic male, potentially in his 20s. Mr. Solis is substantially older than that. But as I had mentioned, Mr. Solis was originally identified as a suspect because one of the bystanders drove in the direction of the dark maroon suspect vehicle and ultimately identified his red truck as the vehicle. I will say that wrongful convictions do happen. Wrongful prosecutions have started, and they've done studies on this. And one of the most common factors in these types of cases are poor eyewitness identifications or mistaken eyewitness identifications. Based on the time frame and how quickly that maroon suspect vehicle went down Darrington, I don't know if the eyewitness, if she saw a first red truck and that was it. We have reviewed the surveillance video ourselves, and even in the minutes before and after, there are other red trucks driving in this area. If anybody's familiar with this portion of Eastlake or of Horizon and Darrington Boulevard, it is at rush hour between 5 and 7 p.m. This is an extremely busy intersection. There is a multitude of vehicle traffic. And there are a substantial number of red trucks that were driving in and around that area, even in the minutes before the traffic collision. Ultimately, this incident happened in 2024. It was indicted by my predecessor's office. When we took office at the beginning of this year, this case was scheduled for trial. And when we reviewed it closely, we did not feel that we could proceed in good faith, in good conscience, after reviewing this and the testing that was done afterwards. Certainly, we did not feel we could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Solis is the person who was driving that car, or that it was even his car to begin with. And there are concerns that it is not Mr. Solis at all. Certainly, we do not feel that we could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And so we are asking, for anybody that was there, or was at that intersection, or if you know somebody who owns a maroon crew cab pickup truck. Again, the collision happened approximately a year and a half ago on February 7th, 2024, at approximately 6 p.m. And we will distribute a portion of the surveillance video. If anybody recognizes that, they're encouraged to call the Horizon Police Department at the number identified, 915-852-1047. If they believe they've seen this vehicle, if they know somebody who might be driving it, it's critical that come forward. These hit and run collisions are very difficult to investigate because the person flees and they take the evidence with them. But I know the family of Mr. Romero desperately wants closure. There is no statute of limitations for this offense, and so the evidence can come forward at any time, and we are hopeful that it does. I know Mr. Romero's family is online, and I did want to give them an opportunity to address you all, and then afterwards we can take some questions.
Miss Magali, ¿nos escuchas?
Sí.
Ok, estamos listos para ustedes.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos los medios de comunicación que están ahorita presentes. Me voy a dar la tarea de leer una carta que todos los integrantes de mi familia y yo hicimos en meses anteriores, al momento de tener esta información que el fiscal Montoya les acaba de revelar. Y comienza de la siguiente manera. Como ya es de su conocimiento, el pasado 7 de febrero del 2024, nuestro hijo y hermano Miguel Ángel Romero fue víctima de un crimen en el cual perdió la vida a los 17 años de edad. Desde ese momento, el proceso al que nos hemos enfrentado día con día es muy complicado. El dolor, la tristeza, la incertidumbre con la que convivimos diariamente se hace cada vez más grande. Al día de hoy han pasado 18 meses donde hemos estado en contacto con algunos representantes de fiscalía, y para la fecha de abril nos informaron con el cambio repentino de la información que nosotros teníamos hasta el momento, haciéndonos saber que la principal línea de investigación mostraba diversas incongruencias con los datos de la persona detenida. Es por ello que estamos ahorita ante ustedes, agradeciendo primeramente todo este tiempo, el apoyo con cada una de sus oraciones y atenciones hacia nuestra familia, pidiéndoles de nueva cuenta a todos aquellos testigos que presenciaron de forma directa, nos ayuden a encontrar nueva y real evidencia de los hechos de aquel día para dar con la persona que realmente es responsable del incidente. Nuestra familia les pide de todo corazón que hagan la denuncia correspondiente si saben o conocen al responsable. datos de su domicilio, características del vehículo o lugar del trabajo donde podamos dar con el paradero de dicha persona. Esta información puede ser anónima directamente con el Departamento de Policía de Horizon City, con alguno de nosotros, incluso con el Departamento de Fiscalía. Y si hoy el responsable, algún familiar o conocido nos está escuchando, les pedimos con todo el corazón que por esta ocasión hagan lo correcto. No nos gustaría que otras personas pasaran por la misma situación. Nuestra familia solo desea justicia en memoria de nuestro ser amado. Al Departamento de Policía de Horizon y a cada uno de los investigadores de este caso, les pedimos no voltear la página como un caso más. Unan el mayor número de esfuerzos para poder encontrar las evidencias y al responsable de tan grande desgracia para nuestra familia. Confiamos en cada uno de ustedes y comprendemos que son seres humanos que pueden cometer errores, pero a la vez tenemos fe en que esos errores ustedes mismos los enmendarán, dando lo mejor de sí para lograr la justicia que tanto anhelamos. A toda la comunidad de Horizon y a todos los que conocieron a Miguel Ángel, les pedimos compartir cada uno de los detalles de esta situación, viralizando en cada una de las plataformas digitales para poder ayudar a la investigación. Así, de esta forma, poder llegar a más personas y encontrar nuevas líneas de investigación, evidencias e información real del responsable. De nueva cuenta, agradecemos cada una de sus oraciones, teniendo en cuenta que somos más las personas buenas que habemos en el mundo y que con su ayuda podremos encontrar juntos la tranquilidad para nuestra familia, justicia para la memoria de Miguel Ángel Romero. Muchas gracias por darnos la oportunidad de expresar nuestro sentir. Dios los bendiga. Atentamente, familia Romero Flores.
Does anybody have questions for the Romero family?
Yo, Josué Esquivel de Telemundo, me gustaría más que nada saber un poco cómo se sienten ahora. Tenían la esperanza de que fueran a juicio, les cambian prácticamente todo el caso. Como familia, ustedes, pues cómo reaccionan, obviamente, cómo se encuentra tu madre.
Bueno, antes de contestar su pregunta, perdón, mi madre también hizo una pequeña reseña de lo que les quería decir, si me dan permiso.
Buenas tardes, yo soy la mamá de Miguel Ángel Romero Flores. Quiero pedirles con el corazón en la mano a todas las personas que vieron el accidente de mi hijo, que nos ayuden a dar con el responsable para que se haga justicia. Mi hijo no merecía tener una muerte tan horrible y violenta. Les pido a los fiscales y policías que por favor ya nos den una buena solución. Ya es mucho el tiempo y hubo muchos testigos a los que no se les tomó bien su declaración. Lo único que pedimos es justicia para honrar la memoria de mi hijo y que ya descanse en paz, ya que ha habido muchas incoherencias en el caso. En un principio, que detuvieron a Oscar Solis, dijeron que iba alcoholizado. Se le encontró cerveza en la camioneta y la esposa aceptó que había salido a beber con sus amigos. Los oficiales detectaron un olor a alcohol en su aliento. Y ahora nos salen por muchas cosas que no van. Yo pienso que si el señor Oscar realmente se cree inocente, ¿por qué se negó a que le hicieran los análisis de sangre en cuanto lo arrestaron? Otra cosa muy importante, cuando los policías lo detuvieron y lo colocaron en la parte trasera de una patrulla, le comentaron los oficiales que estaban investigando un accidente y mientras estaban grabando, el señor Oscar soltó algo sin que le pidieran y preguntó si se trataba del niño que fue atropellado y luego declaró que el niño fue atropellado ayer. O sea, ¿de qué está hablando? Si no andaba borracho o intoxicado, ¿de dónde vino esa declaración? Y todo esto que estoy confirmando lo tengo en el reporte policíaco que nos dejó la policía de Vico. Y lo único que deseamos, y no vamos a parar hasta que se vea que se haga justicia para mi hijo Miguel Ángel Romero Flores. Se lo pido de todo corazón y que se pongan en nuestros zapatos. Ustedes también pueden tener hijos, nietos, sobrinos, y no queremos que les pase una cosa similar. Se los pido con el corazón en la mano. Dios los bendiga. Gracias.
De acuerdo a la pregunta anterior, uno consterna demasiado la información que hemos recibido, porque fue mucho el tiempo a partir de que ocurrió el accidente donde mi hermano murió, a la fecha en la que nos indicaron que había cambios en esa investigación. Entonces nos remueve a nosotros sentimientos, nos remueven dudas, y queremos ponernos siempre en manos de la justicia americana. Sabemos que como seres humanos podemos cometer errores, sin embargo no quisiéramos que pues, el caso continuara de una forma pasiva, sino que realmente con ayuda de los testigos y ahora con las personas que nos puedan estar viendo, podamos pues juntos resolver este caso y poder darle la tranquilidad a mi familia, así como a lo mejor hay muchos casos que se encuentran en la misma situación. Yo pienso que como comunidad podemos hacer el bien, no para colgarnos de a lo mejor una fama, nada más lo que es el hecho de hacer la justicia para calmar un poco el dolor de la familia. Toda esta situación no nos va a devolver a nuestro hermano, pero tenemos fe que nos va a dar un poco más de tranquilidad y saber que el responsable está pagando por sus hechos.
Any other questions for the Romero family? All right, go for it.
¿Ustedes creen en lo que se está presentando aquí por parte de la Fiscalía, de que no se trata de esta persona, a pesar de que usted, señora, leyó el reporte de la policía? ¿Confía en el proceso, en lo que se está llevando a cabo? ¿Cuál es su sentir?
Pues hasta ahorita yo estoy bien enfocada, porque lo primero nos dijeron unas cosas, cambiaron de fiscales, nos decían otra, y ahora nos salen con otra. No sabemos a quién hacerles caso, si los policías, los fiscales, no sé si los jueces ya están involucrados, porque pues realmente pues esto no se debe de quedar así. Murió una persona, no un animal.
Gracias, familia Romero. Yeah, questions for me or for the office? Yes, sir.
There was quite a few pieces of evidence that sort of go against prosecuting Mr. Solis.
Right.
Was all that information known to the prosecutors when they originally brought this case?
It evolved over time. I mean, the testing does take some period of time, and I do want to say this about the Horizon Police Department. There was probable cause to arrest Mr. Solis. They had an eyewitness that identified his vehicle. He was found under very suspicious circumstances, and as I believe has been reported, he has he's been twice convicted of DWI. And so it's kind of this perfect storm, if you will, of incriminating circumstances that led to his arrest. And so there was probable cause to arrest him and to charge him. But once you started taking a deeper dive into it, once we got the DNA results, once we got the blood alcohol results, it became very clear that we do not believe that it's him.
And with a lot of that evidence you just mentioned,
Mhm.
did you guys get that when you had already come into office, or was that available to the previous?
I couldn't tell you with certainty right now when the testing was done. I know it's on the reports, but I can tell you that once we got into office and we looked at it, we made the decision that we could not go forward in good conscience.
Did you speak to the prosecutors on the case, or people working it from the previous office, about why they didn't drop it after they had the information?
So the prosecutor that worked on this case initially no longer works in this office.
And did you discuss with them?
No.
After?
We did not.
When you came into office, what was the process? I mean, Mr. Solis had already been in jail for more than a year.
Yeah, I mean almost a year. He was incarcerated that night on February 7th, and he remained incarcerated until we dismissed the case. So he was in jail for over a year.
And when did you start reviewing the case?
In March and April. It was scheduled for trial in April, and so we really started diving into it in March. Just 2 months when we got here. Yes, sir.
Have you talked to his attorneys? What are they thoughts regarding this case?
Yeah.
What is he thinking about
We,
his decision?
I mean, we spoke to, as the case was getting ready for trial, we were in touch with his lawyer, Derek Wyatt. And at some point, Mr. Wyatt did share some of the work his private investigator had done. And they had obviously noted some of the discrepancies that we saw as well. And so I know he's commented on social media, and I'm certain that he believes dismissal was the appropriate outcome as well.
You mentioned some tests that your team was hoping to get back. Is it common practice to bring charges of this degree when you don't have all of those tests or results back?
Well, when we took office, the testing was done. So it was done when we took office in January of 2025. And so normally it varies. So DNA testing can take up to 6 months at the DPS lab. It varies from case to case. Same thing with the blood testing. It can take several months. And so every case is different. But yes, in murder cases, police officers often make arrests before the testing results are completed because it takes several weeks. And so if we have identified a suspect, if there is probable cause, police will arrest somebody while the testing is pending.
And then is Mr. Solis cleared, or is he still part of this investigation?
That's a tough question to answer. I will tell you that looking at the discrepancies between the vehicles, I feel confident saying beyond a reasonable doubt that it was not his car.
At the moment of the accident, was Miguel walking by himself, or there were more people?
He was the only one walking through the crosswalk.
Was there anything in particular that your office, once you guys really started to review, said, oh, wait a minute, this really doesn't match the other information that we have? How did we miss this? How did the other prosecutor?
I was not working on the case personally directly, and so I can't tell you about the mindset of the lawyer that was working on the case here in our office. But I will tell you, one of the most glaring things was, the prior administration had charged him with, intoxication, manslaughter, DWI third, felony murder in the course of DWI third. And once we looked at the blood alcohol report that indicated there was no alcohol in his system, well, that became a very obvious problem with the case. Then the next step was, well, was it even him? Was it even his car, right? And so it was kind of clearly we were not going to be able to prove intoxication due to the blood results, and then the deeper dive into was it even his vehicle in the first place.
You mentioned that this does happen where someone gets charged and you get more information and
Mhm.
you then have to dismiss them or
Right.
drop them.
Right.
How does that make you feel when you do have to drop them?
I mean, it's part of the job. As I mentioned, our duty as prosecutors is not to convict; it's to seek justice. That is our solemn obligation. It's an obligation that I take very seriously. It's an obligation and responsibility that all of the assistant district attorneys understand. It's something that we emphasize constantly. One of the things that I reiterate in our monthly meetings is just the magnitude of what we are dealing with here every single day. I mean, we literally have people's lives and their liberty in our hands and in the decisions that we make. And so it's something that, like I said, we take very, very seriously. I take very seriously, and I make sure that everybody that works here takes it very seriously. And so, yeah, sometimes we have to make tough decisions, but, particularly on cases like this, where if we do not have the right person, the true offender is still out there.
Horizon PD says they still have lab results pending.
Mm-hmm.
You aware of what those are and whether that would change your calculus?
So we have asked for additional kinds of testing, and we are still working and collaborating with the Horizon Police Department. So I don't want to get into that just anymore.
You can't tell us what kind of testing they're
Can't. No. Okay.
Mr. White said that this is a perfect example of the criminal justice system working. Is this how you see it?
I do. I think, everybody in this case, I think, did their job. And I think, like I mentioned, the Horizon Police Department had probable cause that Mr. Solis was their suspect. I think they were justified in making the arrest. It's something that we needed to take a closer look at. And once we started getting ready for the trial date, and we realized this was not something that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And so I would agree with the sentiment that in this case, the system worked.
I mean, Mr. Solis was in jail for roughly a
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yeah.
Find the justice system worked for him here? I mean, the charges are being dismissed. He still lost a year.
Yeah. And again, it goes to the stakes of how important this endeavor is and how important it is to get it right and to come in here every day and strive to work hard to make sure that we're getting it right on behalf of the community.
How hard is it to tell a family who has believed that the suspect has been caught for over a year, telling them that the case is still going to be ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, you heard it directly from the Romero family. It's certainly something that we don't take joy in, but again, we operate in a field of honesty, and we want to be open and upfront about the strength of the evidence and what the evidence actually shows. All right.
You say you talked
Last question.
Okay. To one of the person who was able to see the truck leaving the scene.
Right.
What she told you exactly? She was kind of confused about the truck, or
No, we did not speak to her directly. So when there was a statement taken from her by the Horizon Police Department when this happened. And so I don't want to get into the specific details about what she said or didn't say, but she did identify Mr. Solis's truck. She stopped at the scene, was there for a period of time, got back in the car. By her own admission, she lost sight of the red truck and then found a red truck, down the road. And I think she believed that was, in fact, the car. But, okay. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
I have the statement from the family.
In English for everybody. Okay. All right. Thank you all.